Hi, I am a Reborn doll artist, and today I'm going to show you what you can do if you already have a Reborn doll and your doll is starting to look kind of shiny. Here I have Lucy, and if you can see, her hands look kind of shiny, and so do her feet. Her feet also kind of reflect the light and they look really shiny. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to remove all of the clothes from the doll. Right, so I did have to do a voiceover because when I made this, my kids were really loud in the background. But all I'm talking about is just how shiny Lucy looks. We have oils in our hands, and so that actually will transfer over to the doll the more we handle the doll. If you want to revarnish your doll, you will need to find a varnish that is compatible with the paint that was used. Here I am using AK Ultra Matte Varnish, and it can be used on heat set paints and air dry paints. What you're going to need to do before using it is you're going to want to shake this varnish really, really, really well. So I shook it here for several minutes before I went ahead and poured it into a separate container so that I then could brush it onto the doll. And when I poured it into the paint palette, it was actually really, really thin and watery. Now, before you varnish your kit, please make sure that you dust it off really, really well. I actually almost forgot while I was trying to make this video, and I don't want you to forget, because if you don't dust this kit off, or any kit, before you varnish it, whatever kind of dust and fuzz, lint, whatever that you have on the kit, if you put a varnish over top of it, it essentially glues it in place. And you would be surprised at how much dust these doll kits tend to collect. I don't know if they have like a dust magnet built in or what, but Lucy hasn't even been in my nursery for very long, and she was actually pretty dusty. I even found a couple of pieces of fuzz that were really stuck to her foot. So I just gently used my fingernails to remove them. You might even need tweezers. Sometimes, I don't know, it happens. But you want to do your best to look over the kit really well before you do add a matte varnish. All right, so now I'm ready to go ahead and apply the varnish. I'm using a flat brush, and you want to make this as thin as possible. Any other matte varnish I've ever used, you actually had to pounce it off or go over it with like a sponge to blot the excess off. With this matte varnish, I haven't needed to. I tested it out, and you just apply a thin coating and then just let it dry. Now, that said, revarnishing a doll kit while it's still assembled is probably not the easiest thing to do. You would probably want to disassemble it, and then you would want to revarnish it that way. But it is possible to revarnish the kit while it is assembled. You just want to work really carefully, go over each limb in sections, and make sure you cover the whole limb well. And make sure that as you varnish, that while it is drying, it's not resting on anything, just to avoid any issues with that last layer. On this leg, I was actually able to varnish the whole thing. I did the bottom of the foot, the top of the foot, and then I did the whole leg. Okay, so if you're still with me, this is actually what the foot looks like after it has been varnished. And this is what it looked like before. Here you can see how much shinier that foot and leg is. That's the one I'm touching, hasn't been varnished yet, revarnished. And this one over here has been revarnished. I almost knocked over the varnish on my table. And I just love the soft touch feel. That's one reason why I wanted to try using this varnish on Lucy. Her arms and her hands are pretty shiny. She's really pale, so I feel like it doesn't show up as much. But here I'm going to go ahead and varnish the foot. Now, you want to keep this as thin as possible. So you want to check in between the creases, in between the toes, the bottoms of the toes, and make sure that there are no blobs of varnish. So I just use the tip of the paintbrush that I'm using to soak any of that excess up. Now, because of the way the doll was laying on the table, I wasn't able to varnish the leg all in one thing at one time. I did have to do the foot and then hold the thigh, and then I had to do from the ankle to the knee, and then I did do from the knee to the rest of the leg. Okay, so both of the legs have been completely revarnished, and now I have to do the arms. You can kind of see how much shinier the arms are, especially the hand compared to the leg. It's only slightly noticeable, but to me, it just stuck out like a sore thumb. So I was really excited to have time to revarnish her today. And I can't get over how soft the vinyl feels after using this varnish. It really is a huge difference compared to the varnish I was using before. Before the varnish I was using kind of had like a sandpapery feel, and I didn't really like that. I like how this feels much nicer. Here you can see how much shinier her hand is. It really depends on the lighting too, and how well it shows. So again, I'm dusting her hand in between her fingers, looking for any fuzz, any dust, any hair, any lint, anything that could be on the kit. I don't want to go over that with a varnish because it'll be there forever. I think I did find something on her hand. And then you're ready. I did stir it this time because it had been sitting for a few minutes, so I gave it a little stir before I applied it. And then just go over the whole hand and then the arms. here I'm showing you the difference between the hand that has been varnished in the arm versus the one that hasn't been varnished. That one hasn't been varnished, and this one has been varnished. And my daughter came over to the table and she gave it a feel too. And I hadn't revarnished the face, but I asked her to touch this hand, and then I asked her to touch that one, and she was like so surprised at how much softer that one felt.